T-Bone is on the other side. T-Bone is on the other side. T-Bone, Prime Cuts, podcast on the other side. T-Bone, Prime Cuts, podcast on the other side. T-Bone, he sets the tone, originates, opinionates. T-Bone, musicality, originality. Any day of the week, Prime Cuts, podcast on the other side. T-Bone, Prime Cuts, the talk space where musicians matter.
Welcome to T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side, Episode 3. Today's guest, Mike Skill of the Romantics. Today we'll talk about how he got started playing music, the formation of the Romantics, their first recording contract, of course, one of the songs that he wrote, What I Like About You, talk about the In Heat album, Talking in Your Sleep, the city of Detroit, and then what I'm really interested in, his solo music. He's got a song out with Wayne Kramer of the MC5 and several other solo songs we'll talk about today, all on T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side. Without further ado, here's Mike Skill. Well, welcome to T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side. Our guest today is the guitarist, Mike Skill. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, T-Bone. Really well. So far, considering the situation.
Right.
I haven't been able to get this cut any, but
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I need a haircut real bad. Now, when did you, at what point did you decide to start playing?
well, of course, the Animals and the Kinks and Beatles and Stones were coming out, and Kinks and Animals were kind of a little bit of a second wave.
Right.
Like, it was Beatles, Stones, Dave Clark Five. Then, not much longer, a little while, Animals and Kinks, and that really kicked it in for me because they were more garagey, a little raw, and more a little bluesier than the Beatles. But I just picked up guitar and just started playing to the stereo, my little record player, and after I learned a little bit, but I think like mid to late 60s, 67 or so, 66, 67, I was just banging around on it, and my mom finally got me a good guitar, a decent guitar, like $120 Gibson 125. I think it's worth like $2,500 now. I don't have it, but one cutaway, one pickup, and I had a band that played like the little high school thing. But I had got out of school in June when I got that guitar, and I taught myself to play by September. When I went back to school,
Wow.
I learned all. I just was like right direct into it. So the Seeds had come out, 13th floor elevators, all that like middle, the kind of garagey kind of psychedelia stuff started happening in 66, 67. And that's what I was learning. And them with Van Morrison with Baby Please Don't Go, and Here Comes the Night, and then the Yardbirds and all that. The early Yardbirds becoming Led Zeppelin later. And I just really zeroed in and learned how to play and formed a little band. Then moved to another area. I was the east side of Detroit, and moved about a mile away and went to another school, high school, and met Jimmy, the drummer from Romantics.
Right.
We had like a little combo then. The other band had like kind of some of the guys got girlfriends, and they were spending more times doing that than wanting to rehearse. So,
Right.
and I was all about music and met Jimmy, and it just took another level. It was another level of players, a little more. I was getting better, and we were playing Notre Dame High School. Used to have like Ted Nugent and Seeger played there, I think, and I think SRC, Scott Richard.
Oh, yeah.
And the Frost, which is Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter. Or Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter was friends with them in Saginaw. And I know you just did an interview with him.
Right.
He's a great player. I mean,
Yeah.
cool guy. And so we played the high school dances at a Catholic church, and we played the little stage, and around the corner was the big stage for the big Detroit bands that were happening. And I was learning still. So all through that, and just be learning how to write, learning how to play, and learning how to really gel. 17 years old, we moved to the drummer's basement. Then we moved from there to we're a three-piece, me, Jimmy, and a guitar player. Then the thing back then in Detroit was bands would get like a storefront and they would throw up egg cartons or foam. We had foam all through the whole thing. It was like a dungeon, like a dungeon. Those that you couldn't hear the word. And I was there we were there all the time. You know, after I had gotten out of high school and after work, or the guys would show up, or we'd show up. It was at the end of high school and after that. We'd get there about 5 o'clock and we'd go till 10, 11 o'clock, and we were there all the time. And this is where we really started writing our own songs and recording them on little 4-tracks and stuff and doing a show here and there. From that, we were kind of like, we really loved hearing, the Lou Reed thing and the Martha Cooper thing. The glitter thing was happening in the 70s, early 70s. Detroit was like defunct, no place to play. All the 60s bands, no more. Like the Five were split up, MC5 and Iggy they split up and they were in LA. He was in LA just hanging out. And shoot, it was like a vacuum. It was like nothing was going on. There was no place to play. It turned into bar bands playing just cover music. Then you get to the middle to later 70s, the punk scene happened, and New York was happening with Max's Kansas City. We were reading in the magazines, Hit Parader, about Max's Kansas City. And LA was, Alice Cooper was living in LA by Iggy, and there was a whole glamour thing kind of going on where the movie stars were hanging with the rockers. So that kind of added to the whole glitter thing, the glamour, the glitter rock thing. Then the new wave thing starts happening in New York, and then the punk thing happened. So that whole thing kind of amalgamated, and we realized, wait a minute, we can write simple songs and do what we did, like what we learned from in our youth along the Kinks, Stones, are really to the earth. Because we were looking for a lead singer all the time. We need that Rod Stewart. We need Mick Jagger. We need, whoever, Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
We had a girl that was like a female Iggy at the time. No one had that at the time. But
wow.
This is 74 or 5. But we learned that, wait a minute, we can do it. So we started learning how to, write, sing it, and then write lyrics and all that thing. Really complete songs and really move forward with it with a look and a sound was because of the new wave and the Hit Parader and New York and Detroit energy and then the punk attitude. So we figured we could. I was always big Dave Davies for sure fan.
Oh yeah.
And the Kingsmen. I love the sound of the Kingsmen. The guitar player Mitchell, Mike Mitchell, who lives down the street from right here.
Oh wow.
And I should give you should get a hold of him.
Yeah, I should.
So Louie, he played on Louie.
So during this time, how did you go about forming the Romantics?
But anyway, the whole idea for the Romantics was the Jam, and the Jam came out. They had their black suit with white and black and white shoes. It was really a streamlined look, the mod look. And then Flamin' Groovies were doing the Beatle thing, and that really like just boom, the light went on, and that's where Romantics thing started. Me and Jimmy, we found Wally after and Rich after, and that whole thing we just started writing. I brought a cassette tape in, and we wrote a lot of songs off that cassette, and started playing clubs. And the rest is 3 years later, we got signed to a deal in New York because we kept going to New York. First record came out. It went up the charts in the top 50s, 60s, 70s. What I Like About You, me and Jimmy wrote and came up with, and it wasn't like nothing that we thought was anything. We just played it live all the time, and we went and recorded in Florida, and What I Like was on that first one. And I'm leaving out that we were on Bob Records for a minute, but the major label signed us, and those 3 songs like hit the top 100 and fell off the charts. People think that I get asked about What I Like About You being a big hit. Like, what did it do on, went up to number one or whatever. It never got past 50.
Yeah.
It like 74, I think, or 47 and on the charts. When it started falling off, they wanted us to do a new record right away. And we were still on the road, and God, I'm rushing this. I know I'm rushing this, but we were playing the Whiskey a Go Go. What I Like About was climbing the charts in Holland and Canada and Australia. And guys from Holland had contacted management and the band, and they wanted to do a video in Europe, in England precisely, and Holland and those states right around France and all that, Western Europe and Britain. And they always still did videos from the 60s. The bands would have sent videos, and who would do a video, send it in, they played it on their dance show and TV shows. And those were still going on. So they wanted a video for us. We were at the Whiskey a Go Go. We were going to play there that night. They had called a week or two before. They came in, they flew in with like one camera, and they wanted to do What I Like About You video. And so I told them, we kind of got together. I expressed the fact that it should look kind of like Hard Day's Night, really close to the face.
Oh, yeah.
Really dark, black and white, not look black and white, maybe color, but black and white. So it had red in it. But and he shot us close, really close faces, singing. And then he shot back a little bit. Then he shot far away. So that was it. Like in half hour, it was done. Probably cost him a flight and a cassette of film. And then, as opposed to later, we're spending $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on videos, which was crazy. And that's what you were supposed to do, I guess. And it got out of control. And then, as luck would have it, MTV happened.
Right.
Video went to Holland. It went to the top 10. It went to number one, I think, in Australia. I think it went either number one, What I Like About You, in Canada, but US, it fell off the charts. Let's see.
That's one of the things that even me, I was surprised when I saw that it went up as high as it did. You people automatically think, oh, well, that went to number one because you've heard it so much.
Yeah, we were on Emperor Records. We were on like CBS or Capitol
Right.
or Reprise, or we were on a custom label of a custom label. It was Emperor Records, was a custom label of Epic Portrait, which was CBS. So we had to go through the channels, but we had our management had good good meetings with them and forced the issue. The band really had a good track, a live band that played. We were such a great live band that it helped us in. We could jump on tours with. We were jumping on with Cheap Trick before we were signed. Ted
Right.
Nugent for a couple shows, and Jay Giles for the Cars. So we had some money in our pocket, or some what do you call it? We had something used for the label. Tell them how.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had power. We had some power, and so What I Like About You happened, and then the three songs, Tell It to Carrie, When I Look in Your Eyes, and What I Like About You started falling off the charts. They immediately wanted us to go into the studio. We had just finished the first record, not more than a year and a little bit before that. And that's like, okay, you've spent that 3 years doing that first record. Now you're looking at an empty sheet.
Yeah.
What do you do? Okay, so.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that first record came out in January of 80, and then the second one was December of 80.
I think it was.
Yeah, they really rushed it seems like.
Yeah, and I had to deal with that writing wise, personally, mentally, and oh crap, kind of thing, and then the band too, as much jamming together and getting together, putting stuff together. But it worked out. I mean, I got through it. We went to New York. We recorded the first two albums. First album was in Miami. We went to New York for the second record, which was A&R Studios, which is who is that? That was Billy Joel and a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
All from the 50s, on. Great studio. I can't think of the guy's name that ran it. and we set up more live. The first record was really, we put the amps in a corner, like a half stack Marshall or a high watts, and we put quilts over them, and mics were on, and they're on 4. Volume was on 4. So I was like, oh God, pre-production. We did pre-production for a month, so I was kind of ready for it. The next record, we wanted a more live thing. We'd been planning out with bigger shows, so it was a bigger thing. It was the next step to a bigger thing. Before that was all clubs. So we were set up straight on like live. There were mics close to the amp, 6 feet, 12 feet, and then room mics. That was just an experiment. It worked, I guess. And from playing with the Ramones and Cheap Trick, we had that really punk attitude. So songs were fast. So the new songs were like more up tempo. If you drop them down a little bit, they're a little more digestible in a way. They aren't live. You're not on live. You put it on at home. You're not in a live situation. But so I kind of wish that we'd pulled back a little bit. But songs really have a good edge and attitude on the second record. But I had to come up with that really fast, and it was really a terror. Finishing it, learning all the solos, learning all the writing all the solos, writing all the guitar hooks. All of us came up with melodies occasionally, or one of us, or two of us, or three of us. And then we were set to go. They wanted us to come to Europe. They wanted us to do Saturday Night Live, but we had already booked Australia.
Oh.
And so we went to Australia, like not more than I think it was a couple months after. Okay, you said December was the record. We went to Australia in February, so we rehearsed about a month. And I was still learning solos and what I did. And usually I would write a solo and I could like compose it, jam with it live on the first record. The second album, it was more precise solos, and I wasn't staying on top of it quite as much. So it kind of hurt. I was not up on it on the first tour, but the first show, but it came out, we got out. I was fired, but for inner turmoil and turmoil with the management about, of course, money. And then there was turmoil about creative projections, future, and what the cover should look like. And I, being an artist and a rebel kind of punk attitude, I was always really pushing for moving forward, keeping things going forward, not always wear every album wear leather suits on the cover. So, and I definitely wasn't going to wear pink suits on the cover. I wasn't on that, but so I was out of the band. They recorded a record. It toppled over. It sank. Didn't do anything. The label wanted to bring in a songwriter for the band, and either that or get me back. So I was called about a year and a half later, and
well, here, let's hold for a second here. We've gone over. You've actually covered 4 or 5 of my first questions, but I want to ask you about. People know you as a musician, but I want to talk about you as a writer, and then we'll jump into In Heat, because that one made a major impact on me. Supporting T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side podcast gives you interesting inside views from the talk space where musicians matter. Go to tbpcpodcast.com and click the donate button. All contributions are much appreciated. A lot of people don't know how much you've written and been a part of. I mean, how early on did you start writing?
Well, I think it was happening even when I was listening to Paul Revere and the Raiders' Kicks, and the guys that did Gloria, Van Morrison, and Shadows of Night.
Right.
Those 3-4 chords, Louie, with those 4 chords, and the Kinks, You Really Got Me, until the end of today, especially. And the Beatles were so refined that, I think there was a thing after they came out that it got raw, because not everyone had 2 great singers in their band, Right. And then they were writing from a 50s a 50s style with the 60s, and then their own modern version of Everly Brothers and Buddy Holly. Well, I had just this raw garage stuff going on, and that's what really the simplicity stuck with me. And when we came through our learning all the Led Zeppelins and the Rolling Stones songs and all that stuff in the 70s, and then we went back to that we went back to our original roots, and that's what clicked with me. I can write this stuff because I know the Kinks songs. I know the simplicity. I can write a guitar part, and you can pull from a lot of areas for melodies and just
Right.
jamming. You sing blah 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 and get rhythms. Uh, but mainly for me, it was like the guitar hooks and like the little parts that go on top of the structure of the song. The little Pete Townsend stuff that goes on top
Yeah.
of of Substitute. Uh, the little hooks that go on top of Rolling Stone songs. The little Keith Richards intros to intros to Street Fighting Man. That rhythm. I always been I started out banging on stuff, and I almost was a
Right.
drummer. So I had that. The right hand really shows a good guitar player. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right hand
Exactly.
is the master, guitar master is on the right hand for me. And that's rhythms. I always hooked in with Marinos and drummers. So that's really what it is. If a drummer came here and started playing right now, I wouldn't think about if I was in the right state of mind. I just picked up a play. I would have a few parts. It's not hard for me to come up with stuff. And so then it's just really set it aside or continue on with it and start banging out little voice things and melodies. And now I'll put them on. I'll put them on the phone. I'll put the phone. So phone's not too far ahead. I'll set the guitar on the acoustic and I'll just bang it
There
out.
you go.
I'll go out for walks, a jog or a bike ride, and I'll plug it in, or I'll have the song in my head, and I'll start coming up with titles, melodies, choruses. That happened with 6149, that record.
Right.
All the records, pretty much. The earlier ones was more in the studio, and at home. I would bring What I Like About You is at my house and my dad's outside on a fall day that was warm, and then going to the studio was freezing cold. My mom dropped me off early. I had no car. Get there, Jimmy's there. I start banging out the chords I had in the day. It was became What I Like About You, because he, we all, me and him kind of ran through it, and then the other guys show up and here, listen to this. Here's
Yeah.
another one, and then later I would come up with the intro, so it's really about, for me, just a clear head, pick up the guitar, and if I get stuck on something, I might go to a piano or something like that. So, but it's based on not so much as songs, but vibes of songs. Like I would bring Wally, or Jimmy, just as kind of like reminds you. I'm kind of thinking of the Hollies, and then
yeah.
like that. So we'd start digging melodies in a certain way, not necessarily a song, but a certain sweetness or a certain darkness, depending on which way you want to go.
So they put out that third record that didn't do so well, and then you said they wanted to hire a writer or hire you back, right?
Yeah, the label, they were going to drop. I guess it was about either drop the band or continue forward. And we're going to search. You guys need to search for someone to write with you, because they did their record, which was a completely different sound than the original Romantics. And then I guess what I've talked to Jimmy, and that they were going to bring in a writer, or it was getting me back. And I'm not sure if everyone was into that, but Jimmy, I guess, was, and the management was. They, dollar signs were there too.
Right.
So I put together a thing, and we came to grips with it, and came back, and I came back on bass and guitar. So Rich was out, and I was in, because Rich wasn't a songwriter. Rich, we'd show him bass parts, and we tell him, I'm sure he can write songs, but really,
Right.
A rate that we worked at. It was like instant, like things would happen. Here it is this, you do that. Jimmy, what do you got? Well, that groove doesn't work because we did that already, or, and anyway, so the label wanted someone to help them, and I came in, and I had been listening to at that period, the new romance thing was coming. New romantic thing was coming out of England. Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran, XTC was coming up. Well, they had been together longer, but they were getting big. Loved XTC, and what you call it from Australia, In Excess.
Oh yeah.
Up around that time. That sound was different. It was changing. We were there. The raw Detroit shit was. Sorry, the raw Detroit shit was early, and because of that the thing that was coming out of, I was listening to the video. I was watching the videos and listening to what was coming out of England. Plus, you had the Clash. But production got a little more bigger, a little more refined. And so I came in with stuff that was more, we loved Roxy music. So a few things, we had that kind of in our, way back there in our mind, but we still were that Detroit band. So we couldn't change that much, but it had a little more refined production, which I wish was a little more raw, but it worked and it sold, and you can't fight with that. And it came out, what was in us came out. So, Nick Lowe was out at the time. That was a little bigger, better production. But all that new romantic stuff was blaring on the radios and on video. And that influenced the In Heat record, I think, in some form. I had the bass line for, I got it back on bass. I played bass after I first learned guitar. I go, oh, bass player. Turn the tone off on the guitar. Started playing bass, for one of my bands. And I finally got into bass and spent a summer just learning parts on like Cream, when Cream first came out.
Oh yeah.
Box bass, and then McCartney on Sgt. Pepper and all that, and all these earlier stuff. I would learn that stuff, and so I was pretty versed in bass. I could do bass. I'd done it for a while. With guitar, I think there was a lot of angst, and I wanted to really do it again. Guitar. That's why that energy on the first Romantics album. I hadn't played guitar for a while in a band, but then so they dropped Rich, kept the other guitar player that came in, Cause, and I was doing both, writing, and forget where I was going with that.
You said you had the bass line.
So I had a song, "Talking in Your Sleep," bass line. A few years before, I had a little bass line like I had, and I played it at the pre-production when the producer was there. Pre-production, you just break down all the songs and make sure you got all your parts right a month before you go in the studio. And I had played that for him, and we had a little jam of it, but it was just a jam, and all the other songs were done in the studio. And we needed an 11th song, and he goes, "What about that thing you had, that bass line, that thing you were doing at the studio way back when we were rehearsing?" And so I go, "Oh yeah, okay." So I played it, and I showed him a couple things, and then we kind of like went, "Oh, well, what about this? What about that?" And Jimmy got the lyrics pretty quick. I think he was going to sing it. Jimmy wanted to sing it really bad, and and then it didn't work out that way. But it was the last song we recorded, and the guy that worked at the Black Cat that worked at the studio with the equipment and keeping everything cool, he goes, "Man, that one song, that last song you did, that's a hit. That's a hit. I know a hit." And he's been around since, we're at Criteria Studios in Florida. Aretha, Allman Brothers, James Brown, been through there. He goes, "I know them all." He goes, "That's a hit." We go, "Nah, well, hope so." Well, he was right. It took off, and we ended up on Soul Train and doing all the TV shows and that, and it took off.
Dick Clark, I remember seeing you on there.
Yeah. So, you never know. You never know. What I like about it, it's just a song we played at bookies, in all the little clubs around Detroit.
But the that bass line and Talking in Your Sleep, that's just everything. that is what stays in your head.
Yeah, the initial thing. I mean, you just got coming up with the initial thing. That's the hard part. Keeping it simple and not getting in front of in your way. Sometimes I'll have a lot of stuff going on. Go, wait, but I should go back to the simple way I was doing it when I first came up with it. So the songwriting is just like a toss up. You just kind of, there's a lot of little things that you could use to keep you in the right shape for a song, in the right state of inclusion or pulling stuff out, or a lot of times the groove really helps me. But melodies and yeah, it's still working. So I'm not gonna. I don't like talking about it too much.
Right.
I don't like explaining it because you don't want it to slip away. So, but I tell people now. They ask, I tell people it.
I graduated in June of '83, and that came out in September of '83, and so that was actually the first album of yours that I bought. And I went back and bought the others, but I bought that one first, and I just remember hearing "Rock You Up" and being knocked out.
Yeah, I had that when I came back in the band. I had that chord structure, and they had something similar. It's the three guys that were left before I got back in the band. They had something similar in another key. So we just kind of went boom, and then I go here's another change. You need another change there, and then it just everything kind of just like boom, there it is. Uh, I can't explain it sometimes. You can't, like Keith Richards talks about it really good. It just comes out of the air.
Right.
You have to be open. You have to open your antenna. You just have to open to it. And you use influences. I like going back and listening to a lot of course, a lot of the blues stuff, and I love. I consider my new stuff I'm doing garage blues. It's like a garage band doing blues, kind of like a little different than the Black Keys. It's got a little more Detroit energy to it. It's got a lot more Detroit energy to it.
Right.
The style of that I come up with now. With My Bad Pretty is like almost a garagey blues Detroit, and then 67 Riot is totally like a MC5 meets Detroit and a Hendrixy kind of thing, but it's a lick. And
I love '67 Riot, and then that you got Wayne Kramer because they just brought it all together.
yeah,
Because the stuff they did, and then having him play on that too that's just a great song.
thank you. Well, we lived through. I lived through 67 riots. On each
Yeah.
side. I went to high school. There's National Guard in the street and helicopters, Hueys in the air, and they're on the corner down the street in Jeeps and with their whatever they were shooting machine guns and that, and we were like we're on the east side, far east side. It was downtown. You know how far that is, and that's like what 5, 6, 7 miles.
Yeah.
7 miles or so, and the TV had it like they were gonna like rebels riders were gonna come right into our neighborhood and the news. Bill Bond's news.
Right.
It was so everybody was really freaked out, and a lot of people moved to the suburbs, and a lot of people left Detroit, and that led up to that thing in the '70s with it, the decline of the city, and the gas crunch and the auto Japan,
Right.
and unions falling apart with Reagan and all that stuff, and here we are, rock musicians in Detroit. And there's nowhere to do it in the '70s. And that's what That's what I alluded to in We've Got Your Rock and Roll, like Detroit, we've got your rock and roll. You've got your rock and roll. It was that time when there was nothing downtown. Musicians and artists were the only ones going downtown to Clutch Cargo's or the Park City Club and St. Andrews, early St. Andrews, and Cass Corridor, the clubs on Cass Corridor,
Right.
where Jeff White started. And that's what I write about. Cass Corridor was just like sirens and nothing going on in Detroit. And here we're looking at the stuff going on in Hollywood, and the glamour stuff. And I'm kind of talking about Detroit. You can always rely on Detroit. It's always got your rock and roll, but and it's kind of for now too. So, but 67 Riot was just the five had Motor City's Burning, and
Right.
John Lee Hooker had a song. I think he had a song about some riots. He came up in the 30s and 40s, so I'm not sure what it was called at the moment. But so I'm always going back to the blues cats, the kind of the '50s guys, Buddy Holly sometimes, Everly Brothers sometimes for melodies, thinking in my head. But then it's really the new wave punk thing, Detroit, and the garage rock. So, and if you pick up another guitar or if you have an open tuning.
Oh yeah.
If I pick up another guitar, something else happens that the other guitar doesn't.
Right.
And anyway, so we did Australia, came back. I was out, and we went on to do In Heat record, and we did a couple more after that. Jimmy left the band, and we've still been on the road since the '80s, like up until last year. I mean, we were
Yep.
every year. So this past year was like you know, it was quite different.
You want to tell us a little more about 67 Riot because I just think that it's such an important song.
It's I wanted to capture that vibe thing, because they did Motor Cities Burning, and I'd been thinking about it since the mid 2000s, maybe even earlier, about doing a song about the riots, and it so kind of slowly came together, and then it came together when I was in the studio. I got the turnaround, the bridge, and how I sang the last verse differently from the first two verses.
Right.
That all happened in the studio. So the studio is kind of my canvas as well. I'll get something and I'll get in the studio and then, oh, wait, well, I could do that there, that kind of thing. Um, and 67 Ride was done at a studio here in Portland. My son was going to school at a little school out in the woods, so far, 10 miles from downtown Portland. And we drive over there every day and drop them off. And there's a music room. They had a music room and nothing was going on in it. And they started doing music classes for the kids. It was it wasn't a regular school. It was a charter school.
Okay.
And anyone could go to it. And it was like, at first it was like 70 kids down to 30 or 40 kids. My wife was running it, and with all the other mothers. And I went in there and I built a little control room. And I asked them if I could do a little studio. And so it was a double wide mobile home thing, office, like an office thing, mobile home, and empty. And I built a little control room, maybe 10 by 9. And then I had the whole room with the drums way back in the corner. I had the engineer just lay down here. I go, want this beat, and it's got to be like this, just straight beat. No really much fills. And that became the bass for 67 Riot. I laid down the bass groove and then started building on it. Delays, there's 3 or 4 tracks. I was using a Marshall, a half stack Marshall, older 800, and an older speakers in 35-watt speakers in a Marshall. So it was pretty loud. I had 6. That's pretty loud on a Marshall. You know that.
Oh yeah.
And then I had 4 mics on it. 2 close up and 2 far away. So it's 4. If you listen to it, sometimes you can hear some of that. Then I dubbed over stuff with a smaller one over there. I have over here somewhere. This is my little studio here. I have a little studio.
Cool.
It's full of stuff. I've put a bunch of stuff in it. It's great. I'm trying to clear it out because I'm redoing the interface. But anyway, so I overdubbed and I did a lot of stuff over there. A lot of that stuff I had up until last year. I gave it to Chuck Occasion over at Pearl Sound, and I had met him, and he said, "Send me some stuff." I sent him a whole bunch of stuff, and it was all the stuff that I've been releasing. He remixed and mastered. I did some stuff in Chicago with Brad at King Size with Mike Hagler. Mike Hagler works with Brad in Chicago, and I would come off the road, go in the studio there, and lay down stuff for some of the new songs. So I did Not My Business, Carrie Got Married, Dark Side of Your Love, My Bad Pretty, and Got Your Rock and Roll in the last, some of them were in 2 years ago and a year and a half ago, and then the COVID hit and I just started releasing stuff.
Sorry.
I'll do the same this year. I think I'll start releasing more. The record and album, I was supposed to get out early, but I don't want to hit January, February. It's kind of a busy time for records. All the time is now, but I think early spring for the new one with everything on it.
Right.
So it'll be 5 or 6 of those songs that I've released, and then 5 or 6 new ones that no one's heard.
Great.
So, yeah.
Now, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I've been talking too much.
No, I was just going to ask you about Carrie Got Married. I love the fact that you had the update kind of on Tell It to Carrie. That was pretty neat.
That happened we played Michigan International Speedway, and
Oh yeah.
and Brad and Chloe, his wife, who's a musician, they got a band, outside band together, the Handcuffs, and they drove from Chicago, and on the way back, she started coming up with "Carrie Got Married." She goes, "Mike, this is a perfect song for you guys," and I presented it to the band, and it didn't get recorded or anything. And then I was doing my stuff, and I go, "How?" I had a recording of it. I did in Chicago. I added. She gave me the chords. I added my sound to it, my guitar playing, the little hooks, and I sang it. I forget how it happened. I ended up singing it because I had been working with Brandon Chloe as well, doing other stuff. But this one I sang, and then I brought it in for this project. I just said, Chuck, check it out. This is really good. See if you can update the production, the mix. So he did, and she came up with the lyrics, and I came up with the hooks and guitar and backups and the vocal. And I've actually got another song that'll work for a triad, a three. I forget what you call it. Would be another Carrie thing, but
Oh
it wouldn't
really?
mention his name. It wouldn't mention his name, but it would be like a three.
A trilogy.
Yeah, trilogy, and or an EP or something with something like that. Because I grew up with with the stuff like the Who and all that, where he would do stuff like the Beach Boys, and
Oh yeah.
he would do those little projects on the side. I think that's kind of a cool thing. And oh, by the way, on the '67 Riot thing, yeah, we got Wayne Kramer, and then I really wanted to get him, and I was afraid to ask him. I didn't, he's our guitar idol,
Oh yeah.
so to speak. Him and Fred Sonic Smith,
Yeah.
the two guys in the five, and it just gave, I either wanted to, I wanted there's a way to go. I want to do another mix of it as well with Wayne, but I want to do like the five would have done, where you put that jazz sax on the ending, where it's going out and it's just a wild freeform sax thing. So I'm still thinking of that down the road, but because that was kind of a sign of the times back then, kind of that freeform avant-garde jazz, and and the chaos of the riot. But Wayne Kramer, I called him and he was gracious. He goes, "Send me the song." He heard the song. He goes, "I love the song." He goes, send it to me, the seat stems," and he got to it on his studio and sent it back, and Chuck mixed it, and that was it. And
Wow.
we didn't mess with anything. We just don't turn it down. Don't do anything to it. Just it's Wayne,
Yeah.
Oh, And, so yeah, that's that. And he says I played with him. They MC50 played Portland, and I went on stage. He asked me to come on and play, and he told me pick a song on Back in the USA or High Time, and that was crazy hearing that from like pick a song, whatever one you want to play on. So we did Sister Ann in Portland, and
Yeah, I saw that
so
video. Yeah.
send me more songs. So I've sent a few things. I've sent one thing, and then I'm gonna send a few more.
Great.
But yeah, that's one thing. And I like working. It's kind of becoming the thing with the pandemic, but I always was thinking this. I want to work with musicians in Detroit and other musicians. So it's going to be part of my whole, what I'm doing. And who knows what's going to happen with Romantics? It's the pandemic can't get us on the road right now. So, but this whole thing's taken off, and I love it, man. I like the response I'm getting, and one thing I missed was the Wayne Kramer. The '67 Riot came out on a 45, and I went to Third Man Records, and they helped me with the packaging, which is incredible. I redid the label. It was the A Square label, the original label. The first MC5 record came out
Oh
on,
wow.
and I copied that label. I called up Gary Grimshaw's wife. He passed away, and asked her if I could use it. She said, "Sure, Mike, whatever you want to do." I go, "I'll do whatever you want. You want credit, whatever you want me to give you." And she actually has an artist, a girl that works with his artwork and brings it up and uses it these days, today,
Okay.
different things. And so I really took the lettering, used my name and Wayne's name, and the sleeve. I did the sleeve like the first "Looking at You" record, I
Oh
think it
yeah.
was, and it was a live shot. I did a live shot, and the flip side. The flip side's a live shot. The front's like a '60s art kind of thing. My son did it. Mick did the artwork. And it's really a cool package. It's really a cool package. And it's, I mean, it's available on MikeSkill.com. I have to say, if you want it, it's still available. We only did 500 copies, but 500 or 1,000, I forget. And it's getting thin. So
Yeah, I was going to ask you where could people go to buy these recordings, and MikeSkill.com is the best place to go.
yep, MikeSkill.com for all the music and all the songs and all that streaming stuff. All the sites from Spotify to Bandcamp to Amazon, and you know them all. By now,
Yeah.
you know them all, right?
Oh yeah. And now I was going to ask you about We Got Your Rock and Roll, because I've been listening to that a lot. Is that's the most recent one?
That's the most recent one. I I came over here and I got the guitar part, and then boy, I didn't know what I was going to do on the vocal. And I got in the studio. I had the 2, 3, 4 verses. I always have extra verses just in case one doesn't work. Uh, I finished up the idea. I got the arrangement. I got the bridge. I started the bridge part. Then the chords for the music, the chorus fell in. It's really almost like an AC/DC rhythm in a way. It's my style. What it reminds me of. See, they got a bluesy thing. ACD's got a bluesy
Yeah.
rock sometimes. So it's like down in that wheelhouse. And it's got a great rhythm on that chorus, and it's really good. So it keeps it going. Sometimes you have a verse that's really good, and the chorus can drop off on the guitar. But I try to keep them, where one picks up from the other. Uh, and then I got the lyrics. I got in the studio, and I did the lyrics with the engineer over at Chuck's place, and he did some mixes. Man, they were hot. They were so hot. I told you got to back them off because it was sounding like it was just a little bit too much. I wanted to come back so it had kind of the more the 5 energy, the Detroit energy,
Right.
instead of a modern hard rock, metalish, whatever sound. I want to still have that 60s, 70s thing. And I think it came out pretty good. And I didn't want to do as many. I did 3 parts with solos. I was going to have some other stuff going on. Then I just said, forget it. I'll just do the solo after the second verse. And then in the ending, it goes to a solo. And then it goes into a rap at the end about Detroit musicians. It talks about Iggy. It mentions Iggy. It mentions my friend Robert Matthew, who's a photographer in Detroit, and for everybody in rock and roll. He passed away a few years ago, and so I mentioned him. Sonic's Rendezvous Band, Niagara's band, Destroy All Monsters. Because at that time in the 80s, they weren't really known that well, but I wanted to bring it into the now.
Yeah.
That was stuff I was listening to in 77, 8, 9, 80s and beyond. Sonic's Rendezvous and that. And we did a lot of shows with Fred. And actually, the thing is, the next thing I want to do is I want to do a rave up horn part. I want to do like a Stones would do on the ending. So
Oh, really?
it would really work really good.
Yeah.
Back and forth with the guitar and keyboards, and that's the next release. So I
Yeah.
could keep them out. I could keep putting them out with different versions.
Yeah, I used to talk to Scott Morgan a lot about Sonic's Rendezvous Band. He would always come in my store and get strings and everything before would go over and tour Europe.
Yeah.
And going back to all the bands that influenced you, or this seems like a lot of them are the same bands that I liked, like the Kinks and the Who and and the MC5 and all that. Yeah.
Well, to me, the 5, I think you might see this. I don't know if you ever thought of this. The 5, I think the energy of Detroit really influenced like the first Led Zeppelin album, because they were coming to the Grande Ballroom and seeing the 5 and the Stooges and all that energy.
Yes.
I think I hear that in Communication Breakdown.
Oh yeah.
You hear it, the guitar tones and stuff. And of course, Scott Morgan. I mean, I've talked to him the last few years. That's on my wish list. Next wish list is working with Scott. He's expressed interest, and I don't want to wait too long. I want to get going and work with him as well. Either send him songs or something. I don't know what, the group. I don't know what. But Scott and you know as well as I with the guys from Rich Riders Detroit. That that was a big influence
Oh
around
yeah.
here too. With Scott, was it what's his name on that too as well?
Steve
Steve,
Hunter. Yeah.
Steve was in that with the other guitar player.
Uh, yeah.
I can't.
Well, I don't think he worked with Dick Wagner till the Lou Reed thing. But
Isn't that
uh,
amazing? The Lou Reed thing.
oh
Just,
yeah.
I mean, there's a perfect line with MC5 influenced by Yardbirds and the dynamics of the Who with all breaking everything, right? With the
Right.
Yardbirds and the feedback, the guitar, the whole guitar thing, and then the Five just took it to another level. The factory town, the noisy town, the smoky Detroit, dirty Detroit at the time from the car factories. They just took it to the other level, and jazz was huge.
Oh yeah.
20s and 30s in Detroit, and then they would take that avant-garde jazz and they were just mixing it up. The Grandy was like a birthplace for like a growth out of that, of all this like really raw anarchic kind of stuff. Stooges on stage, vacuum cleaners, peanut butter, whatever.
Yeah,
And
I just missed out on that by about 10 years. There's so many stories, and I wish I could have went there.
well, I heard all the stories just next day because I was 15, 16, 17. I didn't have a car or the
Oh
money.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have, and I'd hear the stories from girls at school that went and in high school. I wasn't going there. They're hanging out with Cherry Reed.
Supporting T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side podcast gives you interesting inside views from the talk space where musicians matter. Go to tbpcpodcast.com and click the donate button. All contributions are much appreciated.
The line I was getting at is the double guitars. People don't realize Fred and Wayne, their parts, they would do a Chuck Berry part. Would be like this would be, yeah. And that's what I was doing on those little parts, the Five were known for that. And then came the Allman Brothers. And the Allmans were doing it the same way after they after they took Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green.
Yeah.
They were like American Fleetwood Mac. They doubled it up like the guitars on the MC5 to me. And whatever.
That all makes sense now. I hadn't thought about that, but that all makes sense now.
So it goes right down.
Yeah.
But Five were really an orchestrated band. Those parts, if you listen to, they do what's the James Brown song? Man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The James Brown song.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be with a woman or a man song.
The Man's World.
This is the Man's World. They do the guitar duels in that. It's really good. But anyway, so Detroit, the line back. I mean, look at all the stuff that's come out of Detroit. All of it. I mean, musically, just even for jazz, the jazz stuff to the blues stuff to the rock and roll. It's still there, and the lineage is still there, and there's so many groups with the Ruiners and Jack White and Hives and all the bands.
Oh yeah.
It's still coming out. They're still coming out. All the young bands are still doing it in Hamtramck, and I'd say it's happening. It's really something.
I saw so many bands, downtown or in Hamtramck, like you say, or wherever. And a guy that you play with, a guy that you grew up with, I think I've seen a lot. Bobby East. I've seen him several times.
Yeah. He was in one of the bands I was in when I was out of high school. I went to a free concert at Belle Isle, and he was playing, and it was like he had a stack of high Univox. I think either Univox was Jeff Beck, and they were playing like Back Bogart Apathy. They were playing those songs.
Oh yeah.
And so he had his black Les Paul, and I got his number immediately after the show and called him, and then he ended up coming over. He was with us for quite a few years. We wrote a lot of songs together. I brought him back in when I played in Detroit. He's just man, I love the brother. He's my brother from way back, and
Yeah.
I always respected him and other guitar players around Detroit, and we'll get together again coming up when we can do it. And I have what's his name, Mike Marshall. He was with the Mutants,
Oh yeah.
around Detroit, and and so on.
And
yeah.
what's it? Ricky Rat too.
Ricky, not a lot of people knew about Ricky Rat outside of Detroit too much. He was with the Dead Boys. He filled in a couple of years ago, and I used to see him with what you call it? What's the other group? He was with his original group. Trash Brats.
Oh yeah.
They were like Detroit's raw energy, crazy New York Dolls.
Yeah,
something.
I've seen him a few times here in Indy. He was usually playing with somebody else or part of a double bill or something. I've seen him 2 or 3 times here in Indy.
Well, I always recognized he was a really good rhythm and guitar player, good ball sound. And I don't know if people noticed it or not. They should have, but I think they did in Detroit. And I saw that it could fit in a song I was doing, and I didn't want to do my style on it. I wanted to have some other thing on it, too much of me on it. But so I called him, and he played on Not My Business, and it was great. It turned out really good. I got to get some more songs to him, so I got to get in the studio again. But
well, this is exciting to know that you've got 5 or 6 more songs to put out. Because I just thought maybe that was it, but and you're going to put them all together this year, right?
Yeah, I got to get the album out. I mean, it's no use. Like Brad was saying, there's no use putting the EP out for a couple $100 more. You can put on an album. So that's next. I hope to get into that manufacturing of it in the next few months. I hope next 2 or 3 months and get it out in spring. But I've got the tunes. I got more tunes to record. So it's just when I'm in Detroit, you got to come by or something. Or you're not in Detroit now, but you're not too far.
Yeah, my sister still lives up that way, so I go up there sometimes.
Well, I'll see you in Indy.
And well, I want to thank you for this because this, I played it off, but this is big for me. I mean, I went to in the summer of '84. I went to the last show, the In Heat tour. I was in the fan club, the whole bit. And this is it's been great to get to know you. And I'll make sure that everybody goes to MikeSkill.com and they can buy stuff there. And I'll make sure to put the link up too.
Yeah, thanks. That's all cool. And I just love talking to you and filling out some information while I'm doing this stuff on my own with a few other cats, good musicians in Detroit.
Yeah.
A few cats here, Portland. I do a little like a blues here, kind of garage blues thing as well on the side, just for fun in the studio. I don't know what that's going to do, but I love acoustic blues. I'm thinking about doing something like that.
Oh, yeah.
A garagey kind of acoustic blues thing. I don't know, but I'm gonna finish this record on and then move from that and keep going. This is something. It's meant to be, and keep going forward. I hope to run into you sometime down the road.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for this, and we'll catch up with you down the road.
I really appreciate it, and keep on, take care, man.
Okay, you too.
Be safe, and we'll see you later.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
We'd like to thank Mike Skill for all his time today, and be sure to go to MikeSkill.com. And be sure to go to TBPCpodcast.com and click that donate button. We'll see you next time.